Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a new theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. Talking musicals to me today is a musical theatre legend. His work with Stephen Sondheim includes Passion, Sunday in the Park with George, and Into the Woods, writing and directing most of those. He's also really well known for collaborating with William Finn on the FALSETTOS trilogy, Little Miss Sunshine, and on the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which I think is definitely up there in one of the funniest nights I've spent in the theatre on Broadway. I'm thrilled to be able to grab some of his time today. It's a little bit rushed. We don't have the full amount of time we usually have, but for a legend like James LAPINE, I am more than happy to skip a few questions just to get to the good stuff. So thank you so much for joining us today on Talk Musicals to Me, James LAPINE. How are you, Mr. LAPINE, today?
Oh, today, I haven't taken my temperature yet, but I think I'm very well, actually.
You're doing okay. That's good.
Doing okay. I haven't gotten much work done today, which doesn't mean it's a bad day. It just means it wasn't much of a work day. But yes, it's very pretty where I am, so I'm very happy.
Everyone is allowed a chill day every now and then, I think, especially you. You've given enough to us to earn yourself a chill day. Thank you. So, James, my podcast is a chat about musical theatre, about the musicals that have influenced you and inspired you and your work. I ask everybody the same questions, and I'm really excited to hear your answers if you're ready to get stuck in.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much. So, my first question is, how did you first meet musical theatre? What was the first musical you remember going to see?
First of all, helpful to give you a little background. I was born and raised in Ohio, small town, and ended up moving to a suburb of New York when I was a teenager. So the first trip we took to New York City, I saw The Sound of Music.
Wow. And do you remember who was in it? Which cast did you see?
Oh, yes, Mary Martin.
You saw the original.
Yeah. And it's funny, I've been doing some writing about myself. And what I remember was the curtain went up and this really clunky little vestige of a mountain came out. And was sitting on it singing The Hills Are Alive with The Sound of Music. And I thought, oh, come on. I was not captivated. Let's just put it that way.
There was no fooling you even at that early age.
But actually, I'm wrong because the first actual show I saw was Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh, okay.
Because the man who wrote the lyrics to that show was from my hometown in Mansfield, Ohio.
Wow.
And we made a pilgrimage and drove, all night to see this production that the famous guy in our hometown did the lyrics for. And that knocked me out. That was great. That was great.
That's very cool. I feel the same way. I'm from a small village in Wales, and if people from there do well, it's a big deal and people will go and support them, especially if they're playing rugby, usually. That's when they'll go and support them.
Yeah.
And how do you remember feeling about going to see a musical for the first time? Like you said, you weren't particularly captivated.
Yeah, I think I was sort of blown away by Bye Bye Birdie. I was younger then. I was probably maybe 10 or 11 at the time. So
yeah,
I don't know if you know the show, but it starts with all of these kids singing.
On the telephone.
Yeah. Of course, now I realize they were probably all 30, but, what did I know? But I have a funny story about it because my cousin wanted me to get an autograph of Dick Van Dyke, who is the lead actor. So when it was over, I went with the hordes of other people and I had the special souvenir program, and I kind of weaved my way among the crowd to get as close as I could. And he was signing other people's, and then I kind of stepped on the divider to get up to him, and I kept pointing this booklet at him to try to get him to sign it, and I mistakenly cut his nose. I actually gave him a paper cut on his nose. And he grabbed it out of my hand, he dabbed his nose, saw there was a little blood, signed it, threw it back at me, and then walked away from everyone.
Oh, no.
In the crowd, I wanted to stone me because I had driven Van Dyke away. But I got the autograph, so there you go.
I wonder if he's still scarred from it.
Yeah.
A little mark on his nose. Hey, it didn't do him any harm. He's still going strong.
I'm sure he doesn't remember the event at all, so...
I have met him once because he came and performed at the Armandson while I was rehearsing to take over as Mary Poppins. So he joined the company that was playing at the Armandson in Mary Poppins, and he did it for one night. And I got to meet him very briefly, and that was very exciting. But if I ever meet him again, I'll ask him.
He's certainly going strong, and I know he's not a youngster.
No, it's quite incredible. He's remarkable. I mean, this was 15 years ago that I was in Los Angeles doing that, and they gave him a small role on stage, and he played the old banker, similar to the part he played in the movie. But even though I think he was 80 at the time, he was still doing old man acting, which I thought was quite hilarious, really. It made me laugh a lot, and the audience loved it. So my second question is, which musical were you first personally involved with, apart from, beating up the stars at the stage door in Broadway?
By that, do you mean one that I worked on?
Yeah, I guess that you worked on, or did you ever go on stage and do one or work on one backstage, or?
Yeah, well, in high school, I think it was high school, I was in a musical Carnival, which my sister, who was 10 years older than me, was an English teacher at my high school. And she was assigned, she knew nothing about musicals. They assigned her to direct this musical. So she asked me to do it. I love my sister because I could juggle. I was a good juggler.
Ah, fabulous.
I didn't sing or dance. I just juggled.
Just stood there and juggled on the side of
Yeah, that was basically what I did. I don't remember much else about it.
Were you juggling many things? I can just about juggle two.
I could get up to probably 5 balls, in the air.
That's impressive.
You could see what I did with my spare time, I juggled.
Yeah. And I can see how starting from there, you ended up where you are now. That's quite a story.
Ironically, I had no real interest in the theater until I was well into my late 20s. So Actually, I was not a big devotee. I was very interested in avant-garde theater and plays and whatnot, but not musicals.
How did your first musical professional involvement come about then?
Well, I have a graduate degree in photography and graphic design, and that's where my love was. And I was in California. I came back to New York. I started working as a photographer, but I really wanted to be a fine art photographer. I had to make a living, so I was doing journalistic stuff and whatnot. I really didn't like it, so I decided I'd switch over to graphic design and worked as a graphic designer. And a friend of mine who I went to college with was very much into theater. And he ended up at Yale University, the graduate program of theater. And they put out a magazine, and there is a graduate school in graphic design at Yale. And they were the ones who designed it, but they were very corporate oriented. So he got me there and got me the gig as the graphic designer of Yale Theater magazine.
Oh, wow.
I did that, and that was freelance. And after a year, the dean of the school loved what I did, so he invited me to come to the school and get a full-time gig. So I did that and moved to New Haven and taught a course in advertising design for the theater. It was a bullshit course, but whatever.
Wow. So doing posters and things like that?
Yeah, all the posters, programs, means of advertising and whatnot. because they also had a program for producers, so it was for people who were studying to do that. A man named Robert Brustein is quite famous over here. They did a thing in January where everyone, faculty and students alike, had to work outside their area of expertise. So if you were an actor, you'd have to build a set, or
Great idea.
Yeah, I said to my students, I don't know what to do. And they said, well, you're always talking about these avant-garde shows you're seeing and everything. Why don't you mount one of them? And okay, find me one. And they found one called Photograph. So got me at the title, and it was by Gertrude Stein.
Wow.
5 acts long, but only 3 pages in length. So it was, I know, really silly, but I had such fun with it, and we got a cast together, and I did it, 5 different ways, sort of a themation. The local newspaper came, gave it a great review. Another friend of mine, actually a girlfriend at the time, she was producing it as her gig, said, I want to do it in New York City. And I said, well, I don't know, good luck with that. And another friend was working on her dissertation on Jasper Johns. Do you know who that is? He's a really famous,
I don't.
Very famous artist.
Right.
And she said, Jasper Johns loves Gertrude Stein. You should write him a letter, or maybe send you some money. And he did. He sent us enough money to mount the show.
No
Another
way.
friend said, what can I do to help? This is how naive we were. I said, well, maybe you could get someone to review it. So she called the lead critic of the New York Times, which outside of the ocean, as you probably know, is, the definitive voice in the theater. And he came, and he brought his son, and he wrote this enormous rave review. And all of a sudden, people were asking me to direct other things and do other things in the theater. And that's basically how I got involved.
What an incredible story. Almost by accident, really.
Totally by accident. And then the musical part, I then wrote a play, and there was a theater of young people called Playwright's Horizons, way off Broadway down in the dumps in that era. And I was sort of a member of the group, and there was another fellow there, William Finn, who was doing musicals, and I had done a play, and he came to me and said, I have a musical, I want you to direct it. And I said, well, I've never directed a musical. And he said, well, I saw your play, which you directed, and he said, you directed it like it was a musical. So I did that, and that turned into a huge hit as well. So it was sort of launched that way. That was the first musical.
And which musical was that?
March of the Falsettos.
It was. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was In Trousers or that one.
No, In Trousers was the one he had done at table settings. So, we were young. And, that kind of, I guess that was the only musical I did, but it sort of was an introduction to Sondheim.
Yeah.
And that's how that all, my life's been kind of very lucky and not planned in the least.
I love hearing these stories. I'm so enjoying doing this podcast. You're my 17th guest so far, and having all this wealth of stories of how people get involved is I find it so fascinating. My next question, James, is one that you're not allowed to choose one of your own shows for, and you'll understand why when I ask it, because it's which musical have you seen the most? Obviously, the shows you have worked on, you will have seen a lot, but is there one that stands out that you have seen more of than others?
Yeah, Sweeney Todd.
Oh.
First Sondheim show I saw, and I was not I didn't go to Broadway theater, as I said, but I saw that, and I think I went 2 or 3 times. I thought it was remarkable. Production of Hal Prince's, and Angela Lansbury, and Len Carey. It was amazing. And every time I saw it, I'd get a chill, even to this day.
I feel like every time I see that show, it's one of those shows that has so much in it that you get different things from it each time you see it.
Yeah, I think so. And it's a wonderful actor's piece, too, because they bring their own magic to it as well. So I guess that's all that. And it was interesting when Sondheim got in touch to work together. I found out that I had only by then done like 2 plays in a musical ever.
Wow.
And I had only seen Sweeney Todd. I had never seen another Sondheim show. So it was pretty ironic. He knew more about me. It was pretty good because I was not intimidated by him at all. It was so he was great.
I have such lovely conversations with people on here that know him. I've interviewed John Weidman and John Doyle as well, who directed Roadshow for him and has done his Sweeney Todd came to Broadway with Patti LuPone. It's the actor musician one. And it's wonderful hearing people talk about him. So how did he approach you? What was that first overture?
Well, I had a project I wanted to do called A Cool Million, which was a short, what would you call it? It's a story, novella maybe. And it was just something that I really was interested in doing. And I had a producer who did my play, who I knew when I was met at Yale. So he was my age. And I sent it to him, and he said, well, let's do it. I mean, who do you want to write the music? And I said, Randy Newman, because I love Randy Newman.
Yeah.
So I went out in California to meet Randy Newman, which was like a big deal for me at the time.
Yeah.
And I flew there, drove to his house, we went to the backyard, sat down. And before he said anything, the first thing he said, oh, I don't want to do your show. I was like, really, why? He says, it's too dark for me. And I thought, wait a minute, you're Randy Newman. How could that be too dark for you? Like, so dark. So we went back, and my young producer, was working in the office of a very experienced producer named Lewis Allen. And Lewis Allen said, what about Stephen Sondheim? Well, sure, having seen Sweeney Todd. So we sent it to him, and he said he'd be happy to meet me. And I went to meet with him. That's how I met him.
Wow.
I walked in the house, and he lit a joint, and we smoked a joint and started talking. And I like to say we never stopped talking to each other since,
And then all these fairy tale characters came to life and started behaving really badly.
People were fawning all over him for so long. I think he actually enjoyed meeting someone who didn't know him like that and didn't revere him like that. Then he gave me, this was the day of cassette tapes. He gave me cassette tapes of all of his shows. And I started listening to them, and I was going, oh, this guy's like really good.
He's not bad, right? He's not
At all. Anyway, we just hit it off.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so wonderful. I love that. I think it's a lovely thing, isn't it? When I think for him, it must have been a lovely thing to meet somebody who isn't gushing and, falling all over him, like you said. I did meet him once, and I was actually twice, because he did come over to Into the Woods, but I didn't really sort of have a proper conversation with him. But I was really aware when I did meet him and we had dinner that I didn't want to talk about show business, that we were talking about real life, because I didn't want to be that person, to be, obsequious and things like that. I was desperate to ask him so many questions, and I didn't. I thought I had a good word with myself.
Yeah, well, he was very well read, and he was an Anglophile. I mean, he really loved it over there, and I loved having his shows there. He had so many British friends.
Yeah, I watched, and I didn't actually realize that you put this together, and I watched it years ago, the documentary of Six by Sondheim, that I think was something you worked on. And I was absolutely over the moon, because there's some footage of him in his house, and he's at the piano and he's talking. And in the background behind him is a poster of Funny Thing Happens on the Way to the Forum, which I did here. And I was like, oh, wow, my poster's up in Sondheim's house. That just made my day. I was absolutely thrilled. So thank you for that, because that's, your camera angle just cheered me up. So speaking of being cheered up, my next question is, which musical makes you laugh the most, and which musical makes you cry the most?
Any musical. Oh, golly, what musical makes me laugh the most and cry the most? That's an interesting question. Clearly, I don't have much of an answer. Well, Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum is pretty funny, depending on who's playing it. A show like Next to Normal makes me cry a lot when I see it. I did a workshop of that show, and very moving at the end.
It's really raw, isn't it? Next to Normal. They leave it all out there on the stage, that show.
Yeah, it's touching if they have the right cast in it.
I think it's interesting when you see a cast of characters who are contemporary, and you're watching people living now, going through things that you relate to, things like that. That's not particularly the norm in musical theatre. There's quite, fantasy and period stuff. So it's quite interesting watching a musical and you're going, oh, these people are people that I would see walking down the street. And then when it then touches you, it's a different kind of emotion, isn't it?
Also, it's a sung-through musical, and which are very hard to do. The falsetto shows were also sung through, and they always move me. And there's something about when you're not speaking. It's the music and the lyrics that go right to your heart in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plays, they go in here more than in here.
Yeah. Music touches the parts that other things cannot reach, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the language with the music, as you say, it kind of goes right into you, and not intellectual side as much as into your emotional side.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of funny musicals, obviously. I love those too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I think I've asked, like I said, a few people these questions now, and quite often they stumble on the funny question. And I wonder sometimes if it's because it's our business that maybe we don't relax enough to laugh at musicals because we're watching them from sometimes a technical point of view.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's harder to switch our brains off, I think, sometimes.
If you've actually lost, that means what you're watching is really good because you're just not
Yeah.
anymore. You're just going with it. But I agree with you. I think, and that would probably be true of any profession and any situation, that if you're educated in something and it's your work and your body of work, if you're going to go to a meeting or whatever it is, you're going to need that intellectual side of your brain to kind of start analyzing what's going on. And it's exciting about those shows that make you just sit back and give yourself over to it is like going on a vacation.
Yeah, it's a special thing, isn't it? When that happens, you go, oh my God, I didn't have to think for that whole 3 hours.
Being a director too, I'm so analytical, and then I'll discover that that's all faded away and I just give myself over if it's well done, or if I discover in the first 10 minutes I can't stand that actor.
And that just puts you off the whole night.
You know what I mean? Because if an actor isn't the character, but it's an actor playing a character, I can tell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Particularly if they're actors I've known and seen before and they're doing the same kind of performance I've already seen or whatever. But there's those actors who just become that character in such a real, tangible way that you start a relationship with them as if their character, not so much as the actor. So I always marvel at sometimes seeing a show and going, God, I can't believe he or she did that. I just, they also did this in that show and they did that in that show. And it's like they are able to shed their skin in a way or whatever, inhabit a character, play a character.
Versatility is so impressive, isn't it? And I think, especially like you say, when the person is just being rather than performing, and yet, reaching the back of the theatre with, effortless ease. I watched Mark Rylance in Jerusalem. I don't know if you saw that when it was on Broadway a few years back. And I just remember, I've been in this business a long time, and I just remember watching him and in utter disbelief that what he was saying was something he said 8 shows a week. I couldn't believe it. It was so newly minted. It was a real mind-blowing performance for me without being showy,
I wish I could be an actor because I would love to be somebody else every day for 3 hours,
Yeah.
So liberating in a way to no matter what happened that day or who you are or what, but the minute you're able to just be somebody else for 2.5, 3 hours, to me, is so much fun.
It is. That's why I do it. It's playing pretend, and also dressing up, which I love doing, wearing someone else's clothes.
Yeah, I think British actors they seem to be more engaged in what they're doing with each other than I find certain American actors, particularly in musicals, are engaged with the audience as much as each other on stage. You have to sing out, but I get nuts when I see actors who can get laughs, and I can see right through what they're doing and they get it.
Yeah.
They're having fun. And
I think we're very aware of the fourth wall here. I quite like having that fourth wall that I don't like seeing the audience. I'm quite happy to pretend they're not there and just play with the actors on stage.
That's wonderful. I know some shows, if you're in a review or something, you're going to be playing to the audience. But yeah, if you can have that kind of relationship with the other people on stage. What about when you've been on stage with somebody you don't like? What's that like?
That's tough, isn't it? That is tough. Because it's like you say, even on stage, it's hard to switch off your opinions. But I kind of try and imagine that there's somebody that I do like,
The person off stage, but not like them on stage. They could be kind of actor that doesn't look you in the eye on stage. Or, I'm always fascinated by that. And I've directed people who don't get along with each other. And it's hard to navigate that, really, particularly if the characters, if that's not what they're playing and that stand each other. Ugh.
I could talk about this forever with you. I really could. But I've got more questions to ask you. So, on Talk Musicals to me, I thought I would use this opportunity to support some friends of mine who have small businesses. And I put a message out on my social media to see who would get in touch and to see how I can help them amplify their voices. So, I have a couple of ones that I would like to mention today. So this one is from my friend John Chartres, who runs a small business specializing in accounting for the arts, self-employed actors, musicians and stage management, as well as small production companies. Friendly advice and good value for anyone who wants to get in touch at fresheyesfinance.co.uk. And this is from a dear mummy pal of mine called Lucy McCrudden, who runs a non-profit called Dance Mama, which is dedicated to supporting parents who dance on and off stage. With evidence-based information and support, plus over 80+ stories, we help parents continue their careers in dance from a physical, mental, creative, and logistical viewpoint. Check out www.dancemama.org to see how they can help you navigate your career as a parent. And finally, Jessica runs something that sounds like great fun, a thing called Showtime Circus, which can be found at Showtime_circus on Instagram. It's a circus school franchise and helps other small business owners franchise or license their business. It's based in Birmingham, but I think there's lots of them around the country. So get online and have a look if you want to learn some circus skills. I wish we could just keep talking about this. This is what happens because I've set it up that I have to ask these questions. So I guess I should probably... My next question is, which forgotten musical would you like to see remounted? Is there something that you saw, maybe Bye Bye Birdie, back in the day that you think would speak to a modern audience?
Well, it's funny you say that because I do think Bye Bye Birdie could be really interesting to remount. Because it's actually about sex.
Yeah.
Look at it. You've got this Elvis Presley guy who walks around in his underpants. And I don't know, you're too young to have seen the original production, but also the father in the role was so gay. He was just, his name was Paul Lynde, and he was just totally a flaming dude, and in those days that was so rare.
Yeah.
But really you could see that he had the crush on the young guy. I was just thinking to myself, God, if I ever did it, it's not revived very often at all. And the last time it was revived on Broadway was just terrible, so.
Oh no. I don't know if it's even been, it's definitely not been done over here for a very long time. The last time I ever heard of it being done was at my old drama college. Which was a long time ago,
It's very American, it's set in Ohio actually as well.
So is it set in your hometown?
Well, it was called Sweet Apple, Ohio. But yes, I'm sure, given one of the authors being from Ohio and that small town, it had a lot of effect on it. The story is, fun about this rock and roll guy coming to a small town. I don't know. I don't think it's likely to be revived anytime soon.
Maybe they'll do an avant-garde version of it.
It's a wonderful score. It's a terrific score.
Oh, it really is. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like some shows, the music lasts longer than the piece. The score still, speaks to, like we said, reaches the parts other things cannot reach. The book and the story, sometimes that's where it dates, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely right about that. Absolutely.
Is that a challenge as a book writer? Are you kind of aware of that? And when you write something, are you sort of trying to make it as accessible as possible, like for future audiences?
It's a collaboration. If you're doing a musical, it's just not about you. I was lucky because I had two guys, Sondheim and William Finn, and two people in a room is pretty easy, is great. Then you start to think about it. I've done it with four people in a room, and it's impossible. It's very hard to get everybody into each other's heads and figure out how it goes. So, Bill Finn was completely opposite Stephen Sondheim. He just sat down at a piano and played music, whereas Sondheim was, writing every little dot on every word and making list after list after list. lyrics, words that rhymed, and so it was kind of fun being. And Sondheim was a lot of fun too, but in
Yeah.
different ways.
John Weidman mentioned in his podcast that the speed at which Sondheim worked was not always great for somebody who was writing with him and directing with him as well. And so that must have been refreshing then to go to William Finn and he's like, yeah, here you go, here's a song.
Exactly. He would give you a song with dummy lyrics sometimes,
Wow. Yeah.
He went to market. I would stage it, because we're just going to get the show up, and then he would see what I staged, and then he could write the lyrics to go along with the staging. So it was pretty cool.
I do find it fascinating, like the recipe, different things get added at different times, and yet you still get a great show at the end of it.
Well, and he was sloppy and yet full of energy and enthusiasm. Steve was very academic in a way of carving his work out.
Yeah.
You diddle with it, that was genius. So,
Amazing. Amazing. So my next question is there any musical which inspired you to make a strong choice in your life? Have you ever been to see anything and come out feeling changed? I guess this question comes from the play Our Town. When I watched that, I came out and I was like, my God, life is really precious and we don't get it back. That's in my head forever now,
I agree with you about Our Town, but it's a play, and the other thing is I think made a musical of Our Town and it was apparently just terrible. You just didn't, It was musicals that make you change or make you want to change. I think Gypsy's a brilliant musical. It didn't personally make me want to be a stripper, but
well, if it did, you're not going to tell us on a podcast, do you?
A musical I saw when I was young that had a big effect on me was The Fantastics.
Oh yeah.
Was in a tiny, tiny theater. I think it seated 60 people or something. And I found that just hypnotic and enchanting, teenager, which was not really my thing. But
yeah, it ran for years and years, didn't it, that show?
Yeah, I think it's finally dead, but yeah, it was decades and decades and decades. Yeah.
And some beautiful music in it. I think some that people would know on the street, like try to remember when. Da, 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 da.
Had a great cast when I saw it too. I remember.
Oh, fabulous. I've never seen it. And this is its first mention on the podcast as well. So that's pretty good going. I'm excited to be talking about something new.
For an inexperienced theater goer, it was a real experience because it was Village, Greenwich Village, and it was in this tiny theater. And because it was so tiny and intimate, you really felt like you were part of something, It was the audience and the actors just like right there with each other.
And that's something, I guess, like falsettos, that's a smaller experience as well, isn't it, than, Into the Woods, Sunday in the Park with George?
First time we did the falsetto show was upstairs in a 60, maybe 75 seat theater.
Yeah.
I remember it had tin can lights. And I had a wig on somebody for something and I put them on a ladder and whatever, and their hair started on fire. I mean, it was really fun. The synthetic wig.
Life upon the wicked stage. It's the stories are so fun. I'm about to do a show in a 60, 70 seat theatre and I'm really excited to do it.
Yeah, well, I hope it goes well.
I'm going to hold on to that idea of it being a really special experience for the audience,
Also because you probably have if you did those roles you did, you had to have ability to really perform for people. So it will be an interesting challenge for you.
To make it a smaller story to tell. Yeah. I'm going to enjoy it, I think. So I have two more questions, if that's all right with you. One of them is, if you answer it the same way as John Weidman, it'll be a very quick answer, which is, what's the secret to a good musical?
That's not an easy answer.
I just meant short answer.
I would say the storytelling is seamless through both the dialogue and the song, so that when someone starts singing, it comes effortlessly out of what precedes it. And when it's finished, it takes you to another place in the story and effortlessly lets you go your way. So I tend not to do shows where actors go stand center stage and belt to the rafters, but it doesn't really have much to do with the story. And audiences love that. I mean, it's thrilling. But for me, I like when I forget that people are kind of singing.
It's very difficult as well, isn't it, to do that blend between the speaking voice and the singing voice? Because having, we do loads of workshops and things, and sometimes you're working on a show and it's clunky, the dialogue going into the song.
You have to have a reason why people are singing. I see shows that maybe have good songs in them, but the songs don't carry the story or the emotion forwards. So, gee, she sings great and hits those notes and whatnot. But is she changed because she sang it? That's a good song that takes you from here and you end up there. Sondheim songs give you a place to go with the song as a singer, I think, and a storyteller.
Yeah. Oh, God, definitely. So I'm going to ask you my final question now. This final question is one where you are absolutely allowed to pick a show that you have worked on. And it's which musical feeds your soul? Which musical has enriched your life the most?
That's a great question because it changes. Maybe something that you just wrote and then two shows later, there's another one. I guess I'd probably say Into the Woods because it's had longevity. And what I like about it is it continues to speak to people in a way. I love Sunday in the Park, but, it's a show about an artist. And a lot of people can't relate to that. But Into the Woods seems to be a show everyone can relate to somehow.
I think we've all been told fairy tales, haven't we? And I love how it speaks across the genre. Like my daughter, she, we played her the movie when she was really young and she loved it and she loved Jack. I think he was her first crush, and yet, my parents love it and my grandparents loved it. I think that's a real special show when it speaks to people of all ages.
But it's about something, in every generation and every year, there's a giant in our midst, whatever it might be or who it might be. I think it's not the best written show in the world, but it does speak to something that children and adults alike can relate to.
And it changes at your different stage in your life. Like now I'm a parent. I am, in my head, I've got Children Will Listen going on all the time,
Steve passed away right before the last Broadway revival. And I went to the first preview and it was crazy. It was like a show or something. And I thought, well, what's this? And I thought, well, a lot of kids have seen it in school or done it in school. And then the second night was the same. And I asked somebody, why is this now suddenly? And they said, because it's generational. If you look in the audience, you'll see parents bringing children to see it because they saw it when they were children. And it's a kind of, I thought, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing it here. It's being done.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
In the wintertime, I think, in the autumn.
Yeah, I keep telling them, just make sure it's suitable for everybody. I've seen avant-garde productions that are just a little too arty. But of course, I wrote it when I was having a child. So.
Oh, really?
Having the child, but my wife was having a child. We were having it.
All that stuff was in your head.
Totally.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. It's a very special show to me, but a special show for so many people. And thank you for bringing it to us with Steve Sondheim as well, obviously. It's just one of those shows that never leave us.
But also, it got him out of his usual fare as well. I think. Made him write a different kind of show than you usually do. It was interesting. We kind of, we had Sunday, but we had just met and we were, still feeling each other out. I didn't know what I was doing, frankly, But by the time we got to Woods, we were like blood brothers, so.
Amazing.
Lovely to talk.
It really is so lovely to talk to you, James. Thank you so much for your time and for your absolute brilliance. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Be well. Take care.
Take care, James. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. James LAPINE, everybody. What is my life? How do I get to talk to these people? I honestly can't believe it. I wish I had more time with him, but I am incredibly grateful that he gave us the amount of time that he could. And I just feel so privileged to have the opportunity to ask these incredible guests these questions and for them to answer in such amazing ways. I had an absolute blast interviewing him, because this was actually a while back that I interviewed him. I think now he's over here and he's working with the Into the Woods production that's happening at the Bridge, which I think starts previews next week as we go to press. Isn't there a lot of exciting stuff going on at the minute? So right now it is December the 1st as I record this, first day of Advent. Paddington just opened last night to amazing reviews. There have been some really cool cast announcements today. Into the Woods opens next week. We've got all the pantomimes happening. It just feels like a really vibrant time for people to be creative and to make things, and for musicals in general over here. So I'm just thrilled that means there'll be even more material to talk musicals about. So please keep listening. Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life, and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to talk musicals to me.